Hello, the Divine Code reading for December 10th, pages 371 and 372. We are continuing in the introduction to the Prohibition of Murder and Injury. That's the part of this unit of the Divine Code dealing with the Prohibition of Murder. In addition to sinning against the divine and destroying the victim's physical existence, a person who murders and harms many others as well. The tragic loss of a person's life affects his loved ones, his friends, and his associates. But even physically, the effects of murder extend across time and space. So the action of murder affects the individual, obviously, who is murdered. It affects the divine image, the spiritual aspect. It diminishes the divine image in the earth, but it also affects all the other people that are associated with this person, and throughout time would be associated with this person. It affects all these people. We learned this from the world's first act of murder. When Cain murdered his brother Abel, God responded by asking Cain, this is in Genesis chapter 4, verse 10, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's bloods," that's the literal translation, "cry out to me." The use of the plural bloods is meaningful. It teaches that one who murders another also kills that person's would-be descendants for all generations to come. So when God spoke to Cain after killing Abel, he said that Abel's bloods were crying out to him. And the bloods is referring to Abel, but also all of Abel's descendants as well, because they would have been murdered with him. The use of who but God can know where those descendants would have lived and what good they have brought into the world. All that potential for good is throughout the future has been lost because of the violent act. Even if the victim would not have subsequently had any children, the Jewish sages teach that all of one's great or small good deeds are the spiritual fruits that he adds to the world. Therefore, the sages taught that someone who causes the destruction of one person's life from the world is considered as if he had destroyed the entire world. And conversely, someone who saves or sustains one person's life in the world is considered as if he had saved an entire world. Mishnah Sanhedrin 4:5, Rambam's version in his commentary there. See Rabbi Kapak's edition. See also the Rambam Mishnah Torah Laws of the Sanhedrin 12:3. This is also the version of this Mishnah in the Jerusalem Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin 4:9. Therefore, the first, so this is how it's shown out in these various versions. Therefore, the first human being, Adam, was created alone in the world. To teach someone who causes the destruction of one person's life is considered as if he destroyed an entire world. And someone who saves, that sustains one person's life, is considered as if he had sustained an entire world. The original Hebrew uses the word kayayim, which includes the alternative meanings of save and sustain. So one person, their effect in the world can be tremendous. And to kill the one person is to have such an effect, is to change the effect on the world. And we assume that the effect is in a positive way, because it should be. Each person has that potential inside of them to have a positive impact on the entire world. And when somebody murders another person, that's destroying that impact that the other person is supposed to have on the world. And if somebody protects that person, saves or sustains the person, it's having that. It also applies to the positive effect that that person has. They're helping to contribute to positive effect in the world for that other person. Here we have two paradigms. One, murder represents an attack on the divine image present in the world. In the second, murder represents an attack on a fellow physical person. Which act of the sin is worse? So murder does both. It's not one or the other. It does both. So which one has a greater importance? We might think that the greater importance would be the image of God, the divine image. That would be the logical thing. The divine image would be more important than one person. The Torah provides the answer in Genesis 11, 1 and 9, 1 through 9, which describes the episode of the Tower of Babel when the people of the world united to challenge God. For this purpose, they made a great tower with its top reaching toward the heavens. Yet, rather than destroy the people for their openly rebellious act, God simply confused their language, which forced the people to abandon their plans. However, earlier in the Torah, that's in Genesis 6:13, we find that God told Noah, "The end of all flesh has come before me because the world is filled with violence." At that time, God destroyed mankind through the flood because of their pandemic violence that included bloodshed, theft, and sexual crimes. It is clear that murder and mayhem assault the spiritual foundation upon which mankind as a whole exists, more so than direct rebellion against God. So we're seeing two different um, actions where the entire world population were doing a certain action. In the time of Noah, it was violence against each other, murder, theft, and sexual violence against each other. And in the time of the Tower of Babel, which was a few generations later, it was the entire world was involved in a assault directly against God. In those two cases, the assault directly against God was considered the lesser of the two. The attack against other human beings was considered a greater concern. Yet, what constitutes the sin of murder? What acts are included in the category and what acts are not? Are there times when killing is permitted or even mandated by the Torah? Does a person ever have the right to end his or her own life? What about engaging in activities that are inherently life-threatening or accepting donor organs from a living person who will not regain consciousness? In the pages ahead, we see that God provided ample instructions for how the commandment should be fulfilled in any circumstance. So these are very complex issues. If should a person be allowed to end their life, and under what circumstances? Um, these are not easy answers, and these are to be addressed in this unit in the Divine Code on the prohibition against murder. These different complex questions. Furthermore, this discussion has thus addressed only the physical act of taking a human life. Are there acts that don't involve murder, that don't involve physical harm, which are spiritually equivalent to murder? For example, one can be guilty in the eyes of God for destroying another's reputation or subjecting him to humiliation. What if the publicized damaging information is true? These questions, as well as many others, may be addressed in the upcoming pages, are addressed in the upcoming pages of this section on the prohibition of murder and injury. So there's actions that are similar to murder and injury, even if they are not physically murder and injury, but they're similar to, and they have a impact on the person's life, on the victim's life. And what are the rules regarding that? They're incredibly complex, and they're addressed in here. And there's other libraries of books written on the subject as well. It's a major topic. Specifically, murder and injury covers obvious issues such as homicide, whether premeditated murder or accidental manslaughter, suicide, euthanasia, causing serious physical injury. It covers issues such as the Torah laws regarding permissible acts in self-defense, endangering one's life to save another, and death caused through criminal or unavoidable negligence. We also find specific transgressions within all the 7 Noahide commandments for which courts of law have an essential right to apply to capital punishment. The prohibition of injury also extends to non-physical attacks such as slander, embarrassment, and causing emotional harm. Even though many of the precepts relating to murder and injury are complex, the underlying theme can be summarized in one sentence. It is known as Hillel's golden rule of the Torah, and it simply states, "That which is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow. The rest is the exclamation, go and learn." That's Hillel the Elder in Tractate Shabbat 31a. In that case, a person came to Hillel asking that he explain the Torah in the simplest way possible. And that was the simplest way possible to explain the Torah. And then everything else beyond that of Torah is to be learned out. But that's kind of, putting the Torah into one sentence. Thank you.